Look at him. Some women may see a handsome man, perhaps someone they would love to plow their brains out and give them the craziest backshots. But all I see is a menace to society. A vigilante no better than a Karen. A man worse than Adolf Hitler and Osama bin Laden combined with a little bit of VDP. Okay, maybe not that worse. Shoujo mangas have always been a huge part of my life, and as a kid I used to read hundreds of them, from Maid-sama to Dengeki Daisy to How to Ride. And for some odd reason, I was always a fan of the enemies to lovers trope, when two somewhat attractive people hated each other and wanted nothing more but to burn the other person down. In my head, I was like, yes, this is meant to be. This is peak romance. And it doesn't help that half the main male leads were straight up villains. They were the reason why their relationships were sometimes toxic. Oh, he's a good looking dude and popular, he must be nice. Nope, he's worse than my farts. Oh, but he's probably a charmer. Yup, he forces himself on women. Remember kids, no means yes. Well, maybe he's kind. He sends a cabman to the hospital. And while there are memorable candidates, especially my favorite abuser, Kyoya, there's one candidate that stands above the rest and even Kyoya, and that is Kyouta Tsubaki. The moment I saw the art style, I knew he'd be worse than the cholos on my block. Now if you don't know who he is, he's from the manga Kyou wo Hajimemasu, which was my favorite romance manga growing up. It's a story of two completely different strangers who couldn't be more polar opposites to one another, and yet happen to fall in love in their first year of high school. Tsubaki Ibino has a talent for styling other people's hair, but shies away from styling herself and dresses up like Mother Teresa. And Tsubaki Kyouta is the popular guy, who has women creaming their pants every time he steps on school grounds. His homies want to be him and everybody likes him. So when these two met, it was love at first assault. It's your typical love story of high school sweethearts, with each one of them going through obstacles as they overcome insecurities, jealousy, aspirations, the feds, and to some degree some dark topics like affairs. But overall, a beautiful love story that will surely make you feel happy and warm. Or at least that's how it appears from the outside. The beginning opens up with us following Hibino as she makes her way to orientation. During opening ceremony, she's introduced to Kyouta, the popular guy who has the perfect grades, perfect looks, and perfect hair. Not gonna lie, I thought this dude was a lesbian at first, and I was reading a Yuri. But that's besides the point. Afterwards, they end up in the same class next to each other. And this is important because first impressions are always instrumental. But the first thing he does is tease Hibino for being old-fashioned, calling her a Showa girl, which is someone living in the 20th century. That's the first mistake. Next, he calls her horrible for having the same name as him. Second mistake. And finally, he grabs her braids and pulls on it, hurting her while still making fun of her. That's 3 mistakes. As first impressions go, that's probably the lowest you can get. You're not only hurting her feelings, but you're also assaulting someone. And it doesn't help that no one in class says anything about it and just lets it happen because he is Mr. Popular. So Hibino retaliates and cuts off his lavish lesbian hair. After that, he makes it seem like he's about to Mike Tyson her, only to psych her out and make her pay for cutting his hair with either money or her body. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the peak of gentlemancy. Hibino doesn't have any spare money to give, so she offers to properly cut his hair. And it's at this point that Kyouta ends up falling in love with Hibino because no one has ever defied the almighty Mr. Popular. So he grabs her, pulls her towards him, and like a savage, he starts eating her mouth. I cannot make this up, my man is committing a sexual battery crime. He's going to smooch his way to prison. So at this point it's obvious that Kyouta wants that he pussy. So there's 2 options he can take. The obvious normal one, stop being stupid, apologize for being a nincompoop, get to know her and ask her out. Or the fuck around and play games route. He chooses a second option, and it's a roller coaster of bigotry at its finest. So Kyouta has taken an interest in Hibino and promises to take all her first times away. Why? Because he is Mr. Popular, and he has a dark and tragic past. What a mystery! that frankly has no correlation as to why he's being a dickwad to Hibino. So at one point in the early chapters, Hibino agrees to go on a date with Kyouta. They go watch a movie about polar bears, and afterwards while they are leaving, Kyouta decides to pour his drink all over her. Again, why? Well, this was all part of his grand scheme to buy her a nice dress. Truly a once-in-a-lifetime genius. And it doesn't end there, because he tries to clap them cheeks at the karaoke joint, even though she's literally telling him no and pushing him off. You stupid donut, no means no. A few more events occur and eventually Hibino falls in love with Kyouta. And it's safe to say that Hibino is medically blind, because she cannot see the red flags. Even Hibino admits it. Dear God, it's worse than Twilight. So throughout the first 20 chapters, he continues to constantly make fun of her, sexually assaults her, and getting his pee-pee wet with other women while leading Hibino on. You stupid pepperoni nipple. Now this next part makes me mad. Kyouta, Nishiki, Hibino, and Sakura all agree to go to a cabin for the weekend to study. During the trip, Kyouta and Hibino are getting along pretty well. And the great part is he isn't actually insulting her and is being a genuine good guy. So eventually we make it to the nightfall and Kyouta offers Hibino to watch the stars with him through a telescope. She agrees and they end up having a great time. Smiles and laughters are exchanged and the mood is nice. So Hibino confesses to Kyouta. And the next thing you know, he just throws her on the ground and says, "That's disappointing," as Mario would say.
Here we go to the bushy land.
He's bullied her, made fun of her, harassed her, grabbed her braids and yanked on them, sexually assaulted her, has been sleeping with other women, and now he's straight up throwing her on the ground, and yet he's disappointed. Call me crazy, but this man is the Chris Brown of literature. So why is he like this? Well, just like a crime show, we must dive balls deep into the shoes of Kyouta, su fucking stupid caca. I know what you're thinking. Why is he disappointed? Who hurts Kyouta and traumatized him? There must be a reason why he's a madman. Well, the answer is simple. He hates women. No, he's not gay, but he just strongly dislikes a woman because they are all the same in his eyes. Easy to sway, easy to clap, and easy to play with. At least that's his mindset because he has been wronged by two important women in his life. The first one is his mother who had an affair. Do keep in mind she didn't have an affair because she wanted some pee-pee, but because she was constantly being abused by her husband, who we later learn is the self-embodiment of O.J. Simpson. But I'll get more into details on that later. The second person is his middle school teacher, one he looked up to until he found out she was taking private lessons from Sensei Tyrone. Two completely different scenarios, and yet Kyouta is not smart enough to put two and two together. His mindset is locked on all women being the same as his middle school teacher, and therefore he gets a free pass to be a homewrecker, be a menace to society, and treat Hibino wrongly. If this wasn't a shoujo romance, this would be the beginning of Hibino's villain arc. No matter how terrible his past may be, it does not give him a right to treat or do these things to Hibino. That's just him projecting his problems onto her in a wrong and hurtful way, because he has issues that he has not overcome. So please, Kyouta, stop being a chucklefuck. Eventually, Hibino is able to convince Kyouta that she would never betray him, so they start dating. Now you'd think Hibino would start getting the Amber Heard treatment, but Kyouta, to my surprise, starts giving her the wife treatment by being kind, tending to her needs, and making sure she's safe at all times. I don't know what happened, but this man was slapped by the Holy Spirit. And while their relationship is better and Kyouta is no longer a fucktard, there are still issues that they have, like Kyouta pressuring Hibino to sleep with him, letting random home wreckers from his club spend the night at his place, and letting them wear his clothes while dating Hibino. Being a little too friendly with other girls from his class while his girlfriend watches, and damn near fighting his mother, despite her explaining that she was trying to fight for his custody. And even though she had an affair, she never stopped loving Kyouta, but her abusive husband drove her away. In the end, Kyouta doesn't even want to hear her side of the story, and wishes to never see her again. I only bring this up because if a dude treats his mom this way, imagine how he would treat his girlfriend realistically. And even though Kyouta is a lot better, I don't think this is the best ideal relationship to look up to. This just gives a bad influence on a younger audience, believing that this could be a healthy relationship. In conclusion, all I'm trying to say is, don't fall in love with or be a Mr. Popular.